Let's start with you, man. Thank you for driving over here, Straton. I appreciate it.
No worries. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So Straton, by the way, I love that name.
Oh, thank you.
What is the origin of that name? I've never heard that before, but I love it. The first time I heard somebody say it, and I was like, Straton, that's a cool name. It sounds like a guitar.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. I've heard a lot of stories from my family about it. I've heard it was a lifeguard in our neighborhood was named Straton, and then my dad used to work with someone that had the last name Straton.
Oh, okay.
So I've heard
it. Does.
I've heard
sounds
a
like
couple
a last name,
stories.
but it's cool as a first name. I like it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So where did you grow up? Where are you from?
Originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. Right outside Charlotte, but basically Charlotte.
Okay. Why do I think Seattle?
I lived in Oregon for a while. So I think when you heard me share one time, I shared about Portland.
Okay, but that's why you have an accent.
Yeah.
Pictures of guns all over your Instagram.
Yeah. I'm a country boy art.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
So North Carolina, what was your family like? Who was in the house? What were the dynamics?
Yeah, so I think it's important to share about it because I had experience coming in, but my childhood was great. You know, I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood, grew up on a cul-de-sac. Mom and dad was in the picture, 3 older sisters. So my childhood was great. Like, that's why I said I feel like it's important to share that. Trying to get sober multiple times and going to like 12-step programs is I would go in there and I would hear people share about like an abusive household or, you know, just all crazy stuff. And I would always be like, oh, well, I guess I'm not that bad because I grew up in a decent household.
I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I have a great family. My dad was a pilot. They got divorced, but I was older.
Yes.
And I would think the same thing when I'd be in rehabs and I would hear people talk. I'd be like, well, yeah, obviously they're really an addict. I mean, that was some serious trauma that you're talking about right now that you grew up with. You know, like your mom was a junkie and overdosed in your house. Of course you're going to be an addict. Like, I'm not like that. You know, I did the exact same thing. So I always share that part of my story too. I agree. I think it's really important.
Yeah, because like I said, I mean, I've heard, I'm sure you have too, it's just like crazy stories. But I remember I would hear them and I'd be like, whoa. I'd be shooting dope too if I had that kind of childhood.
I thought that before too. I know. But then why do you think we did anyways?
For me, I think it was more internal. I had, like I said, a great childhood. I mean, I cannot say one bad thing about my father. You know, I can't say one bad thing about my mother or my sisters. But for me, I felt like it was just the excitement, I guess you would say, and wanting to feel better and kind of numb certain things, I guess I would say.
How'd you do in school, like academically?
Oh, horrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always say I was a special student, that they liked me so much in high school they kept me a freshman for 3 years.
You were a freshman for 3 years?
3 years. And then finally they said, okay, you can leave. So I was
failing?
Oh, yeah.
But you're smart. I know you're smart. How did that happen?
In elementary school, I had like learning disability, like reading disabilities. So like math and reading, I was always like 3 or 4 grades behind.
Okay.
And I was in school during like the No Child Left Behind thing.
That's a Bush thing, right?
Yeah, well, I guess Bush was more so when I was in middle school.
Okay.
Well, no, Bush was, that's right, 'cause during 9/11 and everything. So I was in elementary school during that point. But yeah, it was part of like the whole No Child Left Behind. And then CMS, the Charlotte Mecklenburg school system, they weren't the best school system.
Okay.
So they were just automatically proving. So they'd be like, oh yeah, you have a learning disability. We're just automatically going to pass you. They used to call it the EOGs, the end of grade testing or whatever. So I wouldn't even have to do it. So it was like, all I had to do was just like show up in elementary and middle school, and then they would automatically pass you. I didn't have to do any tests. And then they threw me in high school, and then they're like, okay, now you actually have to pass the test.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Did you know that you had a learning disability?
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I didn't know until I was told. And I feel like that was the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Now
I was going to ask you how you felt about that. Did you feel different?
Yeah, no, I definitely felt different because like after I got in like 1st or 2nd grade, that's when I was told, hey, you have a learning disability. And you know, you're that young, you're like, what is that?
So that means I'm dumb.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And then they're like, they would pull me out of a regular class for like an hour out of the day and be like with 6 or 7 other kids. And they would like do us like tutoring, I guess.
Yeah.
So then I automatically felt like I was different.
Yeah.
But I believe it's because I was told I had a learning disability.
Totally.
I made myself think that. And then it was told to where, oh yeah, don't worry about passing any of these tests. You're good. So it automatically just keep pushing me through and through and through. So I
Did
never
you
had
play
to do
sports or anything?
I never really got big into sports. I was big into like fishing with my dad.
Yeah.
and
Okay.
stuff like
that makes sense. Like in hunting and
Yeah,
stuff, like
big
country
fishing
boy
hunting.
stuff.
Yeah.
So what leads you to, or actually, let me ask you this. When do you start drinking or using? When do you use for the first time?
So I actually started pretty young. So I actually had a babysitter. So I remember in elementary school when I would go over and like, my parents had no idea about this either, but I would kind of get thrown at her house when my mom and dad had to go somewhere or something like that. And she had some issues for sure, but I would like smoke cigarettes with her.
How old was she?
She was probably like 16, 17. So she's going through that phase in her life.
And how old were you? Like 10?
I was third grade,
Okay.
fourth grade. So I remember like going over
7, 8.
Yeah, 8 or 9, somewhere around there probably.
Wow.
I remember like smoking Newports with her and like Black and Milds.
That's crazy. Were there other kids there too?
So she didn't have a lot of friends. So she basically made me her friend.
Okay.
So yeah, we would like smoke cigarettes, and I wasn't like inhaling, but I thought I was the shit.
Right.
I'm like, oh,
Sure.
And then I think my first drink was with her too, as well. It was like the smeared off ice or the Sparks. Do you remember the Sparks? The little energy drinks, kind of.
I don't think I do.
Four Locos. So it's called Sparks.
Okay. I remember Four Loco.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember the Sparks.
Yeah.
Did y'all ever hook up?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. No, she wasn't my type.
Oh, really?
No. So there was like no sexual abuse or anything.
Good, yeah, obviously. Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, so you drank with her.
Yeah, drank with her, smoked cigarettes, and then smoked weed with her my first time.
Okay.
I think I was probably in 5th grade. You grew up in California, right?
No, I grew up in Georgia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
okay.
why anytime I heard,
why we, got
yes,
okay.
totally. Yeah. The first time I heard your accent, I was like, oh, country boy.
Yeah.
No, I grew up in Georgia.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you guys had like the DARE program. I don't know if they call it the same thing in California, but it was like DARE and DARE, and I remember like they were like talking about like the effects of weed. I'm like, yeah, I've done that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was probably my first go around was with weed and alcohol.
Do your parents know now that happened?
I never like openly talked to them about it.
I wonder where that girl is.
I haven't talked to her in years.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last time I talked to her, I was probably like 18 or 19. Okay. She was a good person. Like I said, she just had some issues, I guess.
Yeah. And I shouldn't judge. I mean, nobody that,
Yeah, I mean,
I know.
You shouldn't smoke. You shouldn't smoke with an 8-year-old kid.
So drinking, smoking weed, does it start to pick up during like middle school and high school?
Yeah, so I remember middle school, I think I like broke my arm or dentist or something, and I got prescribed hydros. And then I remember taking one and like not feeling like too much. And then I remember like going to school and, I was already like still starting to smoke a little bit more weed more then. And I remember my buddy was like, oh, you should, hydros, if you take more than one, you get high off of them. So I remember I like went home and I remember my mom kept it in like the cabinet because this was like before the opiate epidemic like really got bad. So I remember I went in there and I took like 2 or 3 and I popped them on the way to school. And I remember like catching a nod and like that euphoric of like energy, but then also kind of like nodding out a little bit. I was like, oh my God, I love this. Okay. Because like all my stress and anxiety and everything just kind of went away. And it was just like, because I'm normally like a really uptight person. So it was just like fully like a hit of like a flick of a switch, just like calm down. That was like my first, I love this kind of thing, because it just numbed out everything.
Yeah. What does it start to look like after that?
It was whenever I could get them or have a chance. At that time, I wasn't like seeking them. I was more just like the pothead kid. If, they were around or someone had them, I would take them. But I got more heavily involved in like just smoking bud and stuff like that. Drinking a little bit, with friends. Mine more so progressed when I got into high school. Because again, like I said, I was pushed through grades in school, no tests, no nothing. And then once I got into 9th grade, that's it. And then the high school I went to, it wasn't the best high school, I guess you would say. There was like over 3,000 kids. There was like 50, 60 kids per classroom. The teachers were like way overwhelmed.
That's insane.
Oh yeah, teachers would just start crying out of nowhere.
Oh my God.
'Cause the school
What city in North Carolina did you grow up in?
So I grew up in Mecklenburg County, which is Charlotte, but I grew up in Huntersville.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My mom actually lives in Greensboro.
Yeah, so that's not too far.
Yeah. Damn, that's crazy. 50, 60 people in a class.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're just in there.
Yeah, in there, and there was a lot of inner city kids, so it was a lot of stuff going on. People bringing guns to school, and like I remember my friends got robbed at like knife point, and like
at school.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it was
in the hallway.
No, like,
or like,
we'd be like skipping school and like in the woods, and then like another group of kids would come up and be like, "Hey, y'all run your pockets."
Oh my
kind of thing. Yeah. So it was like I was able to like I went from like being in middle school to like boom, these dudes are like full on beards and like so it was pretty intense. And then they opened up another school and then kind of got a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you pay for buying weed in middle school and high school? How'd you have money?
I never wanted to ask my parents for money because at the time this was during the recession. So like my dad lost his job, my mom lost her job. So I always felt like a big thing. Like I couldn't imagine at the time asking my parents for money to spend it on weed.
Yeah.
So I knew a lot of older people, so I would buy weed and then just sell it.
Okay.
Make money to support myself for like, going to the movies or going out to, with my friends and then having enough for me to smoke for free. So I instantly once I got into high school, it's just like, all right, I'm just going to sell weed to kind of support my habit and help myself with, gas money getting around or whatever it is. So,
and you graduate from high school?
No, I dropped out.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
When
I was
and
pretty
why?
much told.
Okay. After doing 3 freshman year?
Yeah.
They said maybe it's time to move on?
Yeah, because I mean, it was like by the time if I were to graduate, I'd been like 21.
Oh, no.
So they would have kicked me out anyway. It was pretty much, I remember my counselor came and she's like, okay, what are you doing? And I'm like, I mean, I don't know. And I was skipping school a lot. It's like my mom got a letter in the mail.
Okay.
And they never knew because like they would call like exactly at 7:10. And I would always pick up the phone and hang up.
Oh, no.
To let me know. So I never went to school. I mean, I think I missed like 130 classes every year or something like that. So I was pretty much told like, hey, you can drop out, but go to the community college to get your high school diploma, this and that. And of course I never did that. But
you didn't do that either?
No.
Okay. So what'd you start doing?
When I dropped out?
Yeah.
So I dropped out and actually went to Oregon. I had a little bit of family that lived out there and did like they owned like a construction company, like a contractor. Basically, they would buy houses, fix them up, sell them, do property management for apartments, fix up drywall and stuff like that. So I went out there to do that. And then I think I was only there for like 8 or 9 months. And then I moved back to North Carolina.
Okay.
And just started basically selling weed, cocaine,
Oh, when does cocaine come into the picture?
I was probably like 17, 18. Yeah, I think I did a little bit in high school beforehand, like psychedelic stuff like that. And then I really got into it when I was probably like 18-ish.
Okay.
Around there.
And then when you come back, so you're selling both of those things?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really selling cocaine. I did for like a little bit, but I had the problem I would do it all. And next thing you know, I'm down on it.
That I wouldn't have been able to do.
Yeah,
no, absolutely not.
I would
did
always
you like
the good game plan. I did, yeah.
I feel like it's unusual. Most stoners don't also like coke.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because like I hate weed, but I loved cocaine. That was like my favorite drug of all time. Probably still to this day. Yeah. Well, no, meth is probably still to this day my favorite, but
I liked everything. But yeah, no, I liked coke, but it was weird because I used to be able to like do some and then I'd be like completely fine. And
for hours.
Yeah. Then I think I messed up my nose because now, well, not now, but when I did it again after like a little periods of time, I would like do even like the smallest bump and it could be like the worst coke ever or it could be like some of the best I've ever done. And my whole nose would just fully clog up and it would stay clog up for days. And then I would use the nasal spray.
Yeah.
And then I would get addicted to the nasal spray. So it'd be like a month and I haven't done any cocaine for like a month and my nose is still clogged up because that nasal spray just clears it up and it brings it right back. So then I couldn't do it.
You were addicted to the nasal spray?
Yeah.
Just it by itself?
Yeah, it's more like a habit for me because
I've heard of this before actually, but I don't know why. There's no substance in it, right?
No. So it's more...
People just love the feeling?
It wasn't the feeling. It was the... So anytime I would do coke, it would fully clog up my nasal. Like I could... No airflow. And that is, I'm sure, like, during allergies, that is like the worst possible feeling.
Yeah.
So when you do it, right, it instantly within seconds just clears it out.
Okay.
So then it's like, oh, I can breathe. And then 8-10 hours later, it's back.
Okay.
And if you just take that little, little nasal spray, it clears it right up.
Yeah.
It's not like the feeling, it's just the relief, I guess you would say.
I feel like it's being addicted to like chapstick. You get like addicted to chapstick. That happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
So how does it start to escalate? Because I know, don't you go back to... You become like a weed kingpin, kind of, right?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
So I went to Oregon like 3 or 4 different times.
Okay. So
my whole story is moving here, moving back, moving here, moving back, moving there, back, traveling, doing this, back, okay. So I went back to Oregon like 3 or 4 times. So I went back probably like my 3rd or 4th time because I started messing up a lot. Like my friends were going to college. I was just that kid that was like the local kid that like you would hear stereotypes of like, oh, that's Straton just hanging out in the hometown selling weed. Yeah. So I was like, you know what, man, I'm done. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna do this whole, because I've always dreamed of like becoming a weed grower and owning dispensaries and stuff like that. Because again, that's all I did and know was weed. So I went out there and I did the whole construction thing. And my buddy that I grew up with, I had him fly out there and move in with me. And me and him had this whole game plan because he was always really good with money and connections and stuff like that. We came up with this whole game plan like, hey, we're going to start our own farm, do all this stuff. I'll kind of go into pieces, but he basically moved out there and he wasn't performing, I guess, how I'd want him to perform as like a business partner. So I had a smaller farm with him. Now I wouldn't really consider like a farm. We had medical cards. This is before weed was like recreational. So we had a medical card. So we were growing with another buddy of ours on some property.
Did you buy the property or were you rent?
No,
did you acquire it?
It was someone that, so the buddy there's two people I was growing with, basically just one because my other buddy didn't really do much, but he said, hey, there's some spots open if you want to. So I just had to register my card for that area.
Okay.
So I had a couple plants growing there, and then I was also growing indoor too in my house. But then long story short, I ended up getting like a resentment towards my buddy because I felt like he wasn't like, I was like going there every single day. I was working and then going there, spending hours there, and he would just show up a couple bit. He would mess up a lot of stuff with like the fertilizers and stuff. But I met someone through the construction company I was working for, this guy that I went and did work for, and he owned a handful of acres, and he had like 2 or 3 plants, and it was an older guy. He was super, I mean, they're real big hippies out there.
Yeah.
And I remember I went out there and I had to do work for him for like 2 or 3 days. And then I was like, you know what? I could have my own and not tell anyone about it. Because me and him were like a partner base.
Yeah.
So I asked him, and he was just like, yeah, you can grow as many as you want. Just
on his land.
Yeah, on his land. And he was just like, you can just heck me back some of the bud. He didn't want any money. He was just like, yeah, just give me some, some bud and stuff like that, or some hash.
Okay.
So I had the little farm with my buddy that I grew up with, and then I was secretly growing over there, and I was growing like 10 times the amount over at that location.
How do you learn about that and get good? Like other people just tell you? You read about it? Could you read about it online?
Yeah.
I guess there's information everywhere. Huh?
I read up a lot of it online. I went to a lot of like the grow shops where like you can buy all your fertilizers and lights and stuff. And I became really good friends with one of the guys that worked there. So he was able to teach me a lot. And I was like a nerd on it. Like I wish I could have done that like I did at school.
Yeah.
Like being a lawyer or something. But
right.
like, because once I put my mind to something like that.
Good weed farmer.
Oh yeah.
Top of the line.
That was like my goal.
Yeah. Well, you did do it though.
Yeah, I did it, and I was pretty good at it too. So yeah, I had books. I mean, I studied. I figured out what strains grow better in certain locations, what have an earlier harvest, stuff like that.
You could have done that with wine, maybe.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I used to make moonshine too.
You did? I actually like moonshine.
Yeah.
Yes, I like moonshine.
Yeah.
I thought I only had it once or one night.
Yeah.
And we had, maybe it was more than one night, but it was at the bar, not a ton of times.
Yeah.
I used to work at this place called the Bird Dog Tavern in Athens, Georgia.
Yeah.
And it was like the most redneck bar ever, but I loved it. It's still to this day one of my favorite jobs I ever had my entire life. In fact, actually, that's where I was on 9/11. I was bartending.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And you're Skylar's age. Skylar was in elementary school.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point when we were dating, it came up like 9/11, like it comes up, and I was like, well, I had to work that night, like I was bartending, like 22, and he was like, and I said, where were you? I don't think I even want to know this. And he was like, my mom had to come pick me up from school. I was like, oh my God.
My mom picked me up from school too. I was like one of the last kids to leave too.
But yeah, and had opiates come in yet at all during that time?
Yeah, so it really progressed because I was overly stressed. So I basically quit my construction job that I was working with some of my family in, and I had both of those farms. I basically kicked out my buddy and was like, hey, I'm not splitting anything with you. He still didn't know about the other stuff, and it was hard because I was being a secret of everything. Yeah. Because he did a lot for me growing up, so like I was trying to help him too, and then I instantly, just like the first reason, I'm like, nope, you're out. So I was jumping back and forth, and I was making 100 times more money than I could even imagine doing this than construction.
Really?
So
you were making a bunch of money already?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was...
Who did you sell to?
Didn't really sell it in Oregon. It went back to the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
So everything... Because in Oregon, it was like $1,000 a pound.
Okay.
And North Carolina, it's like... At that time, was like almost... They're about $3,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you got to think, you're having 100, 200 pounds. That was a lot of money.
Yeah. Did you ever get caught shipping it?
No.
That's like a big charge.
Yeah. Never got caught.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I never shipped anything.
Of course.
Never shipped anything in my life.
Okay. That's hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
I can even cut that out if you want.
There's been a lot of close calls though.
Yeah, I'm sure.
From what I heard, yeah. But there's a couple that have been like confiscated and cops gone to people's houses.
Okay.
So there was always multiple steps. So I would cover myself.
Before you
different names, different addresses, different ways to send the money.
But see, think about how crafty that is as addicts. Even though you felt like in school you weren't as smart, I really believe that addicts, we all have this incredible intelligence in so many different ways. It's just a matter of figuring out what your way is, and is can you find a legal way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, that was smart, even to do like the different names and stuff.
Yeah.
That was smart.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was my whole goal, was to save enough money up to do it 100% legit and get my own
right, like a dispensary and stuff. Were there starting to be dispensaries at that time? Was it starting to become legal?
So it was all medical dispensaries. When I right when I got out of it was during recreational, and I remember I like put up a lot of money for license and stuff like that to go recreational.
Okay.
And then it was like I would spend all this money on getting like certain permits and license. And again, I'm doing this all secretly, so I'm like super stressed out, like trying to hide it.
Like your
from
family
anyone.
doesn't know, no one knows.
I mean, they know. They didn't know the extent.
The scale.
Yeah, they thought like part of my family that lived there, they thought it was just like the 12 plants that I was growing over here. They didn't know about the 100 plants over here. So they didn't really know that I was like trying to fully go legit.
Did you have like a nice car and a nice house and stuff though, or you weren't spending any of the money?
So I wasn't really, at that time, I wasn't really spending a lot of money on like super nice things. I mean, I had a car.
So they noticed the money.
Yeah, I had a car. I lived on like, I was renting a house with a roommate on a golf course. It was like a decent neighborhood. It wasn't like anything crazy.
You didn't like buy yourself a Scarface mansion or something?
No. I wasn't like that.
Right. Okay. So opiates had come in during this time though? How does that come back up?
So when I would bring it to North Carolina, I would fly back. So there would be times where I would fly back 4 or 5 times in a month. Sometimes it would just be for a day. Sometimes it would be for 2 or 3 days to collect, make sure everything's, organized and everything like that. And then that was when oxys really started coming into place. So like, I remember like going over there, and this is when we were all, we were all just doing the blue 30s, like the real 30s, not the fake ones now. But I remember I would go and collect some money and stuff like that. And I would say, oh, hey, instead of the other, little bit, just take off $1,000 and give me a prescription of whatever you can get. Okay. Because again, like I said, I had so much anxiety and stress built up. So it was just like that. I was just constantly popping them and snorting them and not realizing it. And then finally it started drying up a little bit. And then I got dope sick for my first time. And I remember I didn't even know I was dope sick. I thought I had the flu.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Did somebody tell you? I didn't know either. So the guys that I was smoking heroin with, they would tell me, you're going to get dope sick. You're going to get dope sick. Yeah. And I would hear that, but I did not know what that meant. You just don't know what it means until you experience it. Oh, yeah. And then when I first got a little bit sick, one of the guys was like, I thought I had the flu. And he was like, Janine, you're dope sick.
Girl, you dope sick.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's basically what happened.
Yeah.
Who told you? Did somebody like tell you?
So I kind of figured it out. I kind of like knew. At first I didn't know.
Yeah. How long do you think you'd been doing it before this moment?
So I'd always do it like here and there, here and there, here and there. But every time I wasn't doing it, I would always be thinking about it. And I would always tell myself, because at this time, a lot of my friends are dropping, right? A lot of the people that I went to high school with are dying.
Oh.
So it was
like heroin overdoses?
Yeah, heroin, fentanyl. This was when like fentanyl started slowly getting, but this is when people were actually overdosing on heroin.
Yeah.
Because they were doing heroin and Xanax or, whatever it was. But I would say I withdrew really bad one time, but it wasn't like heroin withdrawals. Didn't think anything of it. And then I remember like I had a bunch of stuff go wrong with my whole grow thing. So like in Oregon, it rains a lot. So you get like weed molds when it's growing, like the buds once it starts getting. So I remember I had a really good harvest one year. And then the next year I lost like 80-90% of everything. So all this hard work and everything I did, it was literally I had to go there and just chop it down and burn it because there's nothing you can do. Okay. So I remember I was just like super down about that. And then I just went through like a super depressive state. My buddy that I flew out there, I cut him off. So he basically moved back to North Carolina. And then my family that was out there, they moved back too. So I was basically out there kind of by myself. Yeah. Didn't really have any friends because again, I was consistently just always gone. And then, next thing you know, I've done heroin before this. So this wasn't like my first time. I've done it like a little bit, like smoked a little bit here and there. Okay. And then next thing I know, I don't even really like remember like the whole mindset. Next thing you know, I'm in like downtown Portland and I'm like going around with an ounce of weed in my pocket because I still have a lot of weed left. And I had like an ounce of weed and like $40 or $60. And I'm like, hey, can you get some tar? And the first person I asked was like, yeah, I got some right now. I think he sold me like a $20 bag for like $60, but I gave him an ounce. For that plus the money.
Plus the money.
Yeah, I didn't care.
Right. Yeah. Did you shoot it or smoke it?
That time I was just smoking it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I went home and I remember I just hit some foil and it was just like instant relief.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I had that clarity of like the next day I woke up and I remember seeing like the foil with all the streaks on it. And I'm like, dude, you're fucking disgusting. Yeah. That pitiful, just disgusting feeling.
Yeah. The foil with the black slides on it is just like,
gross.
Yeah, when I think about that memory right now, like Somebody that listens to the show on Spotify last time, 15 push-ups every time Janine says core memory unlocked. So sorry, I'm going to do it again. And I was like, do I really say it that much? But I messed. When you just said that, like core memory unlocked, I can remember so many like Motel 6 rooms, my car, right? Just like foil everywhere.
And black residue just everywhere.
In my hands.
Your pants.
Yeah, I had black smudgy prints everywhere.
Yeah.
Also, this is kind of gross. I've never shared this before. I developed from smoking. So I shot at the end, but I smoked for like, I don't know, a year.
Yeah.
And I would, usually use a straw. I got this little brown stain, like,
teeth?
Right in the middle, in the bottom.
Yep.
And I've always had really nice teeth. Like I didn't have to have braces when I was growing up. And I've always like had these nice teeth. And I remember seeing it and I was like, girl, you're junky now.
Yeah.
It actually went away on its own at some point when I got sober. Yeah. But
and then
like,
your fingers would dye like a yellowish color from like picking off.
Yeah. Well, and my thumb would be calloused from the lighter.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
It would hurt to like light it sometimes.
Did you ever like get breathing issues from smoking it?
No, I actually didn't. I did though. I got extreme like heartburn and I think from the foil. Yeah. It felt like when I would feel it, it felt like the aluminum foil.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is because I'm smoking aluminum foil. I'm fucking positive.
Yeah.
Like I never went to a doctor about it or anything. Yeah. But no, I only had that. I actually was still teaching spin.
Oh, really?
And smoking heroin. Yeah.
I could have done that.
Yeah. Isn't that insane? I would smoke heroin and meth in the parking lot of, do you know Rancho Valencia Resort? I taught there, making $100 an hour, teaching like rich people, and I would smoke meth and heroin in the parking lot of Rancho Valencia.
That's awesome.
Like duck down, and then go into that fucking resort. There, the bridges down there. Also, it's it's like castles. Yeah, and another really nice one too, the Del.
The
Grand Del Mar.
I used to work at Aviara.
Okay, so yeah, it was like a place like that. Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome.
I know. So no, I actually smoked cigarettes until I met Skylar at 37. Oh, so I was sober, teaching spin and smoking cigarettes until year like 3. Yeah. Yeah. And then when I met him, he was like, people don't smoke anymore. I was like, fuck. And I already felt like an old lady. Yeah. So I was like, is that true? Yeah. So I slowly stopped smoking. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Yeah. So
the reason why I asked, because I had horrible, like I was going to the hospital like once a week for like breathing treatments and stuff like that.
Maybe this affected you a little bit more. It's also wet
tar
there.
So I don't know if you were smoking tar.
It's tar, tar down here.
So I guess it was probably a little bit dirtier there. But yeah, I remember.
Or wet, literally wet. The air in Oregon is like there's more moisture. Yeah. You're also probably actually inhaling like moisture in the air. I think would affect your lungs more. It's why like vaping can affect you. Yeah.
It was probably the 3 or 4 grams of tar. I don't know if it was air. It's probably 3 or 4 grams of tar.
I'm going to use that as the clip. It was probably the tar. You're right.
Yeah, it was bad. I remember I would wake up and I would be like, and I would go and hit my inhaler like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, there we go. And then I'll be like, okay, back to the foil. Totally. And I'm thinking like, I don't know what's going on, like just delusional.
Yeah. That's really funny. So how long do you start smoking for? How does it start to escalate? And do you keep your farm during this time?
That was during the time where I lost like almost 90% of everything. Okay. And then once I went down there my first time, I think I went like a week or 2, and then I went back again, and then waited a couple of days and went back again. And the next thing you know, I'm going back there every single day. Okay. And I didn't have like a connection yet. So I was just like asking random homeless people. But yeah, so it progressed when I finally fully got hooked. And then talking about the withdrawal again, I remember I finally found a connection down there. Okay. I remember that's when I was just going there every single day. And I still had a lot of weed left over. So I was just mostly trading weed and a little bit of money. So they loved me down there. Yeah. It was just like, oh, here's a quarter pound of weed. Give me a gram of bud. That's or crazy. A gram of, dope, whatever it was. And they're like, oh, okay. Right. But yeah, I would say it really progressed when I went home. And I remember it was like the hottest time it's ever been in Oregon at that time, like 20 years. It was like 109 degrees. And I picked that day to stop. Because I remember looking at myself, I'm like, bro, you're losing weight. Like, you're disgraced. Like, you're exactly what you said you would never be. Because I always had that ego, like, oh, I'll never be a junkie. I will just stop. I don't understand why people can't just stop.
I thought the same thing.
And I remember I tried to stop, and I remember I woke up, and I couldn't breathe, and I hit my inhaler, and I was just sweating and sick, and I think it lasted like a couple hours. Yeah. And then I jumped in my car and went down there, and I'm like, yeah, I just don't feel good. And then it was funny, her name was Bubba. She was like, yeah, you're dope sick. I'm like, I'm not dope sick. And she was just like, okay. And then I remember I got some, and I like hit a couple streaks on a foil. I was just like,
And then the second
And then
thought
once
is, shit.
No, I'm a dope fiend.
A girl named Bubba?
Yeah.
Tell me about Bubba. Describe her. This feels like there's something funny here.
Light-skinned girl from Texas, homeless.
Okay. Southern accent?
No, not really.
Okay.
A little bit. I think she was in Portland for a while.
Okay.
I didn't know too much about her. Like I said, at first it was just, that's when I had my stuff still together because I paid for rent, you know, all up front. So yeah, she was,
oh yeah, that's right. Didn't you pay like a year up front on rent or 6
like
months
that.
or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like already set. So, because later on I basically became, I wouldn't say homeless because I had a place to go, but I was basically staying downtown. I was sleeping in a tent, but I had like a house on a golf course to go to.
That's insane.
Because it was a 20-minute drive.
So when did you start using needles? And then I want to hear that story specifically too.
The breathing part was really what made it.
Oh, right.
And everyone I knew down there shot. They didn't really smoke, you know, because they were full blown, you know, for years. And I remember kept saying like, no, that's taking it to the next step.
That's what I thought too.
I'm good on that. I'm not afraid of needles, but I'm like, that's some real junkie shit right there. What I thought too. You know, I'm a little bit more classier than that. You know what I mean? When I smoke my foil, I'll keep my pinky out, you know?
I totally thought there was a difference between the two also.
Yeah, but then I realized we're all the same. It doesn't matter how you do it or what you do. I remember I kept trying to smoke, and I remember I was smoking like 4 grams a day because it was like the second you wake up, you know, it was just like, even when I wasn't sick, I'm still just smoking because I got more addicted to the process.
Totally.
I loved the sneaky feel of like in a car, like pulling over real quick and then like looking around. Like I love that, like adrenaline rush, I guess you would get from it. But I remember it just wasn't working anymore. I wasn't getting the nods. I wasn't getting, you know, what I really wanted to. And I remember I was with my buddy that passed away, but I remember he was a really good guy. He would always tell me, he's like, dude, you do not want to do this. You do not want to do this. And I remember I just had to keep pressuring. I'm like, bro,
you asked, you sought it out.
Yeah, I asked him, I said, hey, can you help me? I don't know how to do it. And I remember he refused for like a couple of days. Yeah. And then finally I was like, bro, I'm just going to get someone else to show me. And then he was just like, dude, I don't think you know, you don't want to do this.
Right.
And then finally he helped me. And I remember I was super like nervous. I was like, oh, I'm just going to do like a 0.2. And I shot in my...
First place you went was your hand.
Yeah, because I also have this insecurity of I don't want people to know. So I'm like 60 pounds underweight, you know, haven't shaven or anything, but I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm on drugs. You know what I mean? So I figured no one's really going to think of track marks on your hand.
Right. Okay.
So I remember I hit there and then it was instantly like, I felt it, but it wasn't enough. Because again, I was smoking like 3 or 4 grams a day.
Right.
So then he loaded me up again. And then that's when it was just like, I could feel it going through my whole body. And I was just like, this is what I've been missing. And then again, and then I was like, the next day I went back to smoking. I'm like, I'm not going to do it like that. And then it would like, I'll take a shot, you know, the next day. And then I'm like, oh, I'll go 2 or 3 days. And then it was just instantly just like, no more foil. That's a waste. I can breathe again.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was
it's
like
actually better for me when you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at a black syringe.
Right.
It's a little bit better.
Totally.
So yeah, and then once I'm with that, man, that's when it went into full effect.
Okay.
You know.
And is that when you got a tent even though you had a house?
It took a couple months before I went down that route.
How did that even happen? Where'd you get the tent?
So I used to go camping and hunting a lot. So I had
so you had one.
Yeah, I had some of that time. But I remember I traded a tent for some dope one day too, because I had like 3 or 4. I had like the big like 8-man tents and a couple single tents and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you were able to trade one for dope.
Yeah.
So what was your experience like living down there in a tent? How long did that go on?
I would say probably 6 months, 7, 8 months, somewhere else. But I wasn't, like I said, I would go down there. I would stay for 2 or 3 nights.
And then go back to the house.
I would take the train, because at that time I sold my car. I would take a train back, and then all the weed ran out. So then I had to like hustle for my own money and stuff like that.
What'd you start doing to hustle money?
Not good stuff.
Okay. Like robbing people.
Yeah,
stuff.
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, getting off on people. And,
okay.
You know, you burn the people you love, kind of thing. I didn't burn my family, but I had a lot of people back in North Carolina that didn't know all this stuff. So I would get people to call me and they would want me to like send them bud or something. Right. And I would say, look, man,
I need the money up front.
Yeah, I don't do small time stuff. You know, like I would always try to make it seem a lot better. I'm like, but if you send me $5,000, I'll put you on, kind of thing.
And then you just never sent anything?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. What would happen when you would go back home? Did you ever see any of those people?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm really good at finessing.
Right. Okay.
So I'd come up with a really, really good story. So I'd be like, all right, yeah, just put me on. I'm going to take care of you. And then they'd be like, yeah, it should be there in a couple of days. and then nothing would show up. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on, man. Let me do that. I think they're on to you, blah, 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 blah. So then I'd try to push it back on them.
Right.
And I'm like, just stay low. I'm not going to get you back right now because, it's hot out here kind of thing. So I just keep pushing it out. And then like 2 months would come by, like, hey, and I would stay in contact with them.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking like, as long as I stay in contact with them,
they'll believe me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
it's actually kind of true.
Yeah.
That's kind of smart.
So I just kept pushing it out. And then eventually, it's like, I didn't care. Just stop answering them.
Right. Yeah.
But I did that. And every time I did it, I would do like a large amount. So it wasn't like $100 here, $100 there. It was like a couple grand. That would be enough to get by for a while.
How long does all that last? House ripping people off. Where does that go from there?
What do you mean? Like from when did I finally get out of that?
Yeah.
So when I was down there, when it was like during one of my peaks, my first peak, one of the guys that I was telling you about that didn't want me to shoot or anything like that. And I was so numbed, and it was just like a month felt like a day kind of thing. You know what I mean? But one of the guys that I really considered my friend out there, we were outside of Old Town down near Portland, and it was at night, and we were sitting there with a couple people. And I remember I just did a shot or something. So I was like kind of on the side skirts, like nodding out. And I remember, when you're down there, everyone's arguing about something. So you don't even think twice. But out of nowhere, he was selling like a little bit of heroin and meth and stuff like that. And apparently some guy he sold meth to was in like a psychosis and was like saying all this stuff. And the dude pulled out a gun and shot him.
Oh, shit.
3 times.
Oh, shit.
And then next thing I know, I'm like looking around, and he's 2 feet away from me.
He died?
Yeah. No.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
The guy that shot him just took off?
He took off, and they caught him like 3 hours later. Not even.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had to like sit there, and I'm like holding on to his neck, trying to like, help him out. I'm like not knowing what's going on. Like literally 1 minute I'm sitting there, the next thing I hear pow, 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 pow. And I see him just fall down.
Oh no.
And then next thing you know, I'm in a interrogation room, and they're like, "What? You saw what happened?" I'm like, "I don't know what's going on." I literally was sitting there, and then next thing you know, so I really didn't even see the guy.
Right.
I mean, I heard the shots. I mean, it was literally right there.
Yeah.
But I was like in my own space.
Did you cop to nodding out? Did you tell them, "Look, I was high"?
Yeah. Oh, they knew.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
I mean,
I'm sure it was obvious.
Yeah. It was obvious for sure, but they dismissed it because by that time they already caught. They just wanted like a confession. I'm like, dude, I didn't see. I literally did not see anything.
Oh my god.
And then that's what really was like a flash.
Okay.
Like what are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
Because that was like the only person that I really considered my friend out there.
Yeah.
That actually like really had a heart. That was one of the hardest things, for sure. But after that happened, I remember I checked myself into like a walk-in detox kind of thing.
Okay.
And
in Portland?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just dirty as it could be. And I remember I was there for like a day or two, and then I got on like the whole methadone or Suboxone and stuff like that. And then finally I made a call back home, and I was like, hey, I need help. Didn't tell them I was on drugs. I came up with a really, really good story because, again, I don't want people to know.
They didn't know? Your parents didn't know you were on heroin?
They knew, but it was like the not our baby boy kind of thing.
And you still had your house?
Yes.
At that, okay, right. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you didn't have your car, but
yeah, it's
also hard to know when you don't live here. Like, my dad was in Georgia, right? Mm-hmm. He knew I wasn't doing well.
Yeah.
I clearly wasn't thriving.
Yeah.
But if my mom hadn't lived here, it would have been a long time before they knew heroin.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because he wasn't here. It's hard to know.
Yeah.
Like
my, some of my family kind of figured it out. When I called, I remember I came up with like a really good story because I knew like the second I got home, they're going to know something's wrong. Because I was like 60, 70 pounds underweight, like the skinniest I've ever been, cheeks in the bone, like bad. But I remember I called and I'm like, oh, the house I'm living at has mold and I'm sick and I can't work. They can't figure out what's going on. I have this stomach issue. I can't eat. I can't keep anything down. So I'm like coming up with all these fake medical conditions.
Yeah.
And then they ended up flying me back home. And I'll never forget walking into my mom's house, and there was like a surprise dinner. So I walked
like in. They had invited people over?
Well, it was like all
like
family.
Your family. Oh my
and like
God.
nephews and nieces and stuff like that. Yeah, so it was like, and that's the last thing you want to see.
Oh my God. Had you brought dope with you?
Yeah, so I brought like a 0.5.
Okay.
And I had a 0.5 and I had a bunch of like Suboxone strips.
Okay.
And I remember like I used a lot at the airport.
Yeah.
And then I got on the plane. And then I got there and I was like, I'm just going to taper off, And I remember I walk in and it was like my whole family, like 10 of them, are sitting in like the living room. And like we walk in and I look like shit. They've never ever seen me this skinny. And I remember just walking in and everyone's like, oh, hey. And it was just like super awkward.
Yeah.
And I remember like going to the bed, and I remember my sister and my mom were sitting there, and my sister's like, he's on drugs. And my mom's like, no, he has.
You could hear them?
Oh, yeah, I could hear him.
Okay.
Yeah. And I remember just hearing him talk.
Yeah.
And like my mom's like, no, he has issues right now. There was mold in the house. And my sister's like, Mom, he looks like he's on drugs.
Yeah.
But I was really good at like coming up with all these different stories and stuff like that. So I went to all these doctors when I came back, and like, you know, I did a colonoscopy because of it. And you know what I mean? So I was like, I was trying to prove.
Committed.
Oh yeah, I was committed because I really at that time. Now I really don't care, but I really care. At that time, I really cared what people thought.
Totally. Yeah.
Especially my family. So I was just playing the game.
Yeah. You even had a colonoscopy voluntarily.
And it was funny because it was like months later when I did it. And I remember I was like, I stopped dope for a while. So when I came back, I did that little bit of 0.5.
Okay. And then you actually tapered with the subs.
And then I kind of tapered, but I never fully like got off of it. Because I started doing oxys because I'm just not going back to heroin.
Okay.
So I started doing the oxys like a month later. Okay. And then I led back up to dope. But I remember when I went to go do the colonoscopy, I remember they're like, all right, we got to put you down. I was like reading the disclosure things like, do not take opiates and all this stuff. And they had to like put you to sleep.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting there and I'm like waking up in the morning before it. And I'm like doing a little bit of dope. And I'm like, I'm just going to do enough to where I'm not sick. And then next thing you know, I'm like, you know, almost nodding out. And I'm like going in there. I remember like sitting down, I'm like, should I just tell them? You know, because I was like, what if I don't wake up? You know what I mean?
Did you tell them or
no? Fuck no. I care too much.
Totally. Yeah. Oh my God.
I didn't want the doctor that I've never seen in my life to know that I was on drugs.
Totally.
You know
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But that went well. Obviously, they didn't find any issues.
Okay. So then what? What happens next?
I started doing okay-ish. It was like 2016-ish. 2017, I would say, 2016. Went back and I did like okay-ish, not sober at all. And then my buddy...
Wait, went back to Portland?
No, I stayed in North Carolina.
Okay.
I've never been back to Portland since then.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah. Couldn't pay me enough to go back out there.
Right. That's
I did somewhat okay for a little bit. I got a job working for a startup company. This is when they made hemp legal. Okay. So I got a job working for a guy that had a hemp farm of like 20 acres or something like that. It was a really big farm.
Living at your parents' house?
Yep, living at my mom's house, yeah. Okay. And I got a job as a consultant, kind of teaching him how to do everything. And I loved it. You know, it was fun. It was like the same thing, just didn't get you high. So I did that, and I was also working a night job. And my buddy got out of rehab, like a court-ordered rehab. And I remember I picked him up, and at the time I was still doing the oxys. Yeah. And I picked him up, and I was like, "Oh, hey, because I didn't know anyone there. Everyone I knew basically died already, so I didn't really know. And the people that I did know that would probably know how to find dope, I was too insecure to ask them because they would tell my family or tell someone or something like that. But he got out, and I remember he got out, and he's like, "I got to go to this A&A meeting," and I've never been to an AA meeting. You know, and I'm like, I'm just trying to get dope. And he's telling me, oh, I got to get this court signature thing. And I remember, I'll tell the story sometimes, but it was like, I remember we walked in and we were late because we were like smoking or drinking or something like that. So we showed up to the meeting right before it. We thought it started at 8, but it started at 7. Right. So we get there a couple minutes early before it's over.
Oh my gosh.
So I walk in and we open the church doors and there's like 60 people in a circle holding hands and praying.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, yo, what is
So you thought that's what it was?
Yeah. So I'm like, well, what is this?
Right.
So then we instantly bail.
Right.
And then we go to I took him to another one, and we walk in, and it was a candlelight meeting. Oh my so we open the doors, and it's dark, and it's a circle of like 9 people with a bunch of candles lighting. And I'm like, yo, it's a cult. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, this is a cult. Yeah. So long story short, me and him started using. He's actually in prison right now.
Oh, shit.
He gets out actually pretty soon. But yeah, he was like one of my best friends too. Or still is one of my best friends. Yeah. Talk to him every now and then. But yeah, me and him just went down that down roll and checked myself into a detox center for a couple of days, backed out, and then just went. I was like, you know what? Screw it. this is it. Yeah. And I just went on 100.
Yeah. Like I'm just going to live this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it. And it is what it is. And then I remember I was still living at my mom's house. She was getting ideas and stuff like that. She kind of knew, but it was just like, again, I'm really good at like making stuff up. But I remember my sister came over. She's like, I know about your friend Drake, and I know about this. I know about this. And I'm like, look, I'll come over to your house. I'll explain everything to you. And then she's like, all right, come over, Friday. And she's like, if you don't, I'm gonna tell mom and dad and all this stuff like that. Right. So I remember I went over there, and I pull in, and it's just her car in the driveway. And I walk in, open the door. She's there. We walk into her living room, and my whole entire family's sitting there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. Straight up intervention
it was
style.
An intervention.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the first time I watched my dad cry.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
First time I ever seen my dad cry, and my sisters and my mom. My mom, I've seen cry. She's a very emotional woman, but that was like the first, like, dude, you got to stop.
Okay. What was the intervention? Is it like what you see on TV where everybody goes around and like reads a piece of paper or something? I've actually never been to one or had one.
It wasn't like a paper thing. It was more so like, hey, we know, like, it's okay.
Right.
We know, kind of thing. It wasn't like the typical, like you see on the TV show kind of thing.
Did they have a treatment place set up for you to go to right then?
Mm-hmm.
And you went?
Yeah. At first it was like, I remember I told them, I was like, they told me, they're like, look, we're going to go to a place. I'm like, look, I just got this hemp job, like I can make it here. It's going to mess everything up. And they're like, dude, look at you.
Right.
Like, you're in denial. Like, look at you.
Right.
And then that's basically said, we're going to fully cut you off completely. You need to go get help. We love you. This kind of thing, stuff like that. And I remember I was like in denial. I remember one of the things I was like, but what if I want to get a job at like the Secret Service and they're going to know? And like, they were like, dude, look at you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I have the same concerns though.
Yeah.
My first detox, actually, I had insurance and I didn't use it because of that exact reason. I didn't want to be on record anywhere as a heroin addict. And now I've got a show called Chasing Fucking Heroin. But at the time I was like, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, I totally understand that. Yeah. So you went?
Yeah. I went and did my last shot. Just went in, and it was a really nice it was like a small detox center.
In North Carolina?
Yeah, you had your room, you had your TV in it. Because I've been to the really crappy ones where it's like you sleep on like a little styrofoam mat kind of thing. And then now I'm like walked in here, I'm like, oh, this is nice. But I do the same thing. So I always lie about my usage.
Okay.
So I'm in there, and they're like, when was your last use? Oh, I last did dope, 24 hours ago, because I want to get the Suboxone.
Oh, right.
So I remember going in there, and I remember waking up, and they gave me the Suboxone, and it put me in the, what's the withdrawals?
Precipitated withdrawals.
Every time I go, it's always it's the worst feeling ever.
But that's going to happen, and you still just take it sooner?
Yeah, because it's just like you're going to have something that's going to help, so it's just every time.
Okay.
Did that and did the 7-day detox, and then I went to a really nice place in Georgia, Blue Ridge Recovery. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No, where in Georgia? Do you remember the city?
I can't remember the city.
Okay.
It was in like the Blue Ridge Mountain areas.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a super nice place, like a giant mansion. It was a really good experience, and I remember they kept pushing like aftercare, like, hey, you need to go to sober living, you need to do this, and the whole time I'm like, no, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing this. And I was like smoking weed and rehab.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. So it wasn't like I didn't go there thinking like, I just was like, hey, I just can't do hard drugs.
Right.
I can smoke, I can drink. I've never had a problem with that.
Right.
And then it was like 4 or 5 days before I was getting released. One of my buddies said, I'm flying out to California. And I remember I was like, you know what am I going to go back and do? I was like, screw it, I'll do it. Okay. And they denied me. They didn't cover my insurance. Okay. So I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm giving up again. And then my counselor at the time, he's like, well, hold on, there's another one that we can try.
Out here?
Yeah, out here.
Oh, okay.
And then I got into that place.
Was that SCRC?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Wait, so what year is this?
This was 2019.
Is this your sobriety date?
No.
Oh, okay,
no.
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It didn't work out too well.
Okay. So you come out here.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Have you been out here ever since, or did you move back again?
I've been to San Francisco. I came out here for the Super Bowl when the Carolina Panthers played. When I was living in Oregon, I drove down to San Francisco. But that was the only time I ever technically been in California.
Okay.
So this was like my first time being in like Southern California.
Okay.
But I came out here and I got drunk on the airplane.
Okay.
And I remember I landed and the guy's like, did you drink? The driver that picked me up from
Right.
SCRC. And I was like, oh, just a little bit,
Right.
And because I didn't think, like I said, I'm not
you just
doing
don't
dope.
know that much about it in the beginning. You have no idea what recovery is supposed to be or whatever. Yeah.
Picked me up. I had to go back to I had to go to their detox for like 2 days, and I went into phase 1. And
that's when Narcan Nate was your house manager?
No, Narcan Nate was my house manager in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
2021. Yeah.
That's really funny. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened? What goes wrong that first time?
Just hanging out with the wrong, any sober living, you have like out of 20 people in the house, only one person is going to probably make it more than a year or two, So I was just hanging out with the wrong crowd, people that just were getting in trouble. And I got into the phase 2 house and they were like, all right, get a job. And then I got a job working under the table. And this is when they were SCRC was actually strict. And they were like, okay, you're working under the table. You're not paying taxes. You need to get an actual real job. You don't have anything on your record. You can get a job.
Okay.
And I was like, no, I'm making $30 an hour. Screw you, this and that. So then they put me back into phase 1. And then when I got out, I was like resentment. I'm like, oh, I'm out of here. So they basically then it kicked me out.
Right.
So then I ended up going back home.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you start doing oxys again when you went back home?
Not immediately, no.
Okay.
So I went back. I drank instantly on the plane.
Okay.
I got back and I was just drinking and smoking. That lasted for actually a good while, I would say, for a handful of months. And then I remember I was doing NA meetings. And this was like when COVID hit really bad.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like I was doing a lot of like Zoom NA meetings and stuff like that. But I would literally be smoking and drinking before the NA meeting.
Right.
And then one of my buddies that lives out here now, me and him would literally, when they started opening up meetings again, we'd be like smoking and like drinking in the parking lot and go in and just listen. We're like, yeah, recovery, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like not thinking. Because again, it's like I was shooting dope.
Doing heroin. Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that lasted not too long. I remember when I got my year chip and I feel
You took a year?
I got a year chip and they threw it was on Zoom and they threw like a party on Zoom.
Did you feel like you had a year by your standards, or did you feel like, no, I don't have a year?
At the time, yes.
You felt like
me.
I can celebrate that I have a year off heroin. You
Correct.
felt that way.
For me, yes.
Okay.
Even though I know how the program was. I mean, I don't go to NA meetings, but at that time I did because it was just, again, I'm a drug runner.
Right.
But yeah, for me personally, I felt
you did.
Because I was like, this is for me.
Right.
You know, I don't have a problem.
Right.
But yeah, I remember we celebrated a year for me. And I remember for my celebration, we went and got cocaine. Yeah. I remember we did that. And then I was living with my friend at the time. And she was like, her mom just, gave her money and supported her. She didn't have to work or anything. She had a decent house. So I lived with her. And that's when I started doing ketamine. And that was like my favorite thing.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I love
I've
ketamine.
never done ketamine.
Oh, yeah.
You snort it, right?
If you go back out, you should try it.
Right. I didn't know that was your thing. That's crazy in the end.
I loved it, yeah.
Okay, you snort it.
I started doing heroin again after that.
You
but
did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I would snort it and do acid.
Does it just knock you out? Don't you just pass out on ketamine?
No,
or are you awake?
You're awake.
Okay, okay.
I mean, if you do enough of it, you'll go in like I guess you call it like a psychosis kind of thing.
Okay.
They call it the K-hole.
The K-hole. Yeah, I've heard of that. Okay.
That's my favorite thing.
But otherwise, can you be functional? Like, could you have this conversation? Or not this conversation, but a conversation?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
It depends on how much you're using.
All right, okay.
But again, I'm an addict, so I want
using
to
a lot.
rush. Because if you do enough, you like trip. Like, I don't know if you ever done like acid or shrooms.
Yeah,
like,
I've done acid a couple times.
you get like that.
Okay.
If not more. Like, I always felt like I've tripped harder on ketamine than acid or shrooms. But
okay. How does it lead back to heroin?
So I was doing so much of it, and it started to really mess me up. Like, you know, like people go through like meth psychosis and stuff and they start seeing shadow people. I didn't see like shadow people or anything, but I would get in my head like, oh, people are out to get me.
Yeah. Okay.
Like my roommate's planning to rob me or something like that.
Yeah.
It really made me super depressive. I remember I went back to visit my mom and I had my old Nissan Altima that was just sitting in the driveway. It hasn't been driven in 3 or 4 years before I went to rehab my first time in North Carolina. And I remember I went in there to look for something and I found a couple cotton washes.
Okay.
And what I used to do is I used to use the cotton washes and I would put them in cellophane.
Okay.
For, a case of an emergency, you can always just squirt some water on them and squeeze them out.
So they were wrapped in cellophane?
Yeah, they were wrapped in cellophane. They were all dried up, but I know if you just add a little bit of water to it.
3 years later.
It out. Yeah, 3 years later.
Oh.
So I remember I found it and I'm like, oh, fuck. And the next thing you know, I'm back at my house with tinfoil, squeezing these little old 3-4-year-old washes out on foil.
Yeah.
And then burning off the water and hitting away.
Okay.
And the next thing you know, I'm hitting up my buddy and getting tar. And then that's when fentanyl was like getting big. And at the time, I never really did fentanyl like that. And then I remember going over to his house and he would have like a good bit of like just normal, like pure fentanyl. I wouldn't say 100% pure, but like before it was cut down.
Yeah.
And I remember he would be
powder, right?
Yeah, it was
I never
powder.
saw it. Okay.
Yeah, it was just whitish powder, tannish white powder. And then he would have his blue powder dye. And that how they would make the fake 30s. Oh. So he would take it and then like take a spoon, put it in a bowl, and then take like 10 spoons of the blue dye powder.
Okay.
And then he would mix it, and then we would sit there and press it. And I remember he gave me like a 0.1, and I remember I threw it all in foil because at the time like I couldn't shoot anymore, so I was just smoking because all my veins have collapsed. Like I don't have any veins or anywhere, unless my neck, and I'm that's gone too. But I remember he gave me some, he put it on some foil. I put the whole bag on foil, and he's like, no, whoa, stop. And I'm like, bro, I'm smoking like 2 or 3 grams of tar. Like, this is not even a 0.1.
Yeah.
And then he took it, the foil, emptied it back out in the bag, and then took like a little tiny, like little bump, I guess you would put on there. And he's like, bro, that's all you need. I'm like, bro, trust me. And I went and got like another little bit, and I put it on there, and I hit it. And it was just like, I remember I held it in, and I exhaled, and it was just like black.
Oh my God.
And I just passed out.
Did you overdose?
I mean, I woke up. I woke up to him
being on your chest.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't have to get Narcan.
You didn't get Narcan.
No.
Oh my God.
Instantly, instead of like, oh my God, that was scary. Oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then,
what's the point of making the 30s versus just selling fentanyl?
I don't know. I never understood it.
Yeah.
I never really got
it. Did he tell people it was fentanyl?
I think is because
or you don't tell people.
I think what you could do is, well, at the time, from my understanding, everyone kind of knew.
Right.
But I think they felt, for people that weren't really doing dope, like how some people do it, I think they felt better because it looks like a pill.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
That was my understanding. I was never big on like they call it chasing the blues or getting the blues. Yeah. I was just like, I know what that is. I just want the real stuff.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But I also think it was part of the thing to make sure they weren't doing, because if you sell someone a gram of that fentanyl and, you know, they put 0.1 in a syringe and shoot, they're going to die. But if you give them fake blue 30 and it's only 0.1.
Yeah.
But then I would see, so I also got 2 understandings of it, because I would watch him do it, but then I would also watch him take a break and smoke and start nodding out, to where I would see him take a spoonful instead of adding the 10 spoonfuls of the powder. He would only add 3 or 4, and then he would nod out and barely mix it, and then he would go back to the presser and start pressing it. So that's how I was like, how you'll hear people like, oh, yeah, they'll take a 30 and they were fine, and they'll take a 30 out of the same back and they die.
Holy shit!
Because people
is that why he's in prison?
No, this is
somebody else.
Different. Someone else. Yeah.
Okay.
My other buddy started driving for the Amigos that we were getting tar from, and it was funny because they hit me up to drive for him. Because what it was is, you call a number in Mexico, they tell you where a place to meet, and then you meet the driver. You don't have the driver's
when
number
you're out
or anything.
Here.
When I was in North Carolina, that's how the whole organization worked for the tar.
Okay.
But they hit me up to go drive for them. And basically what it is, they pay you a couple grand a week, but you drive from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every night.
Okay.
And they hit me up to work for them, but I went to detox for my family that did the intervention.
Okay.
So then they hit up Drake.
Oh, wow.
And Drake started driving for him, and he got caught with like a couple ounces or something like that, and some money. So
how long has he been in prison?
He's been in prison for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were gonna do it,
yeah,
except for they did that intervention.
I would have been for sure would have gotten me. That would have been me that got caught.
So where does it take you? When do you get sober? Because what's your sobriety date now?
May 14th.
That's my birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, May 14th. Oh, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
So what happens May 13th, May 12th? So how does this end?
Instantly, and this is the part that I think is the biggest part, is all the other times I've kind of been pushed into treatment or I've gone just to get cleared up. But I remember I was finally done. I remember sitting at my job. I was working at a golf course at the time as like the grounds crew, like landscaping and stuff. And I remember I was sitting out there and I was underweight. Everyone was asking me what's going on. And I remember I just broke down, you know, and I was just like, I'm just done and I'm ready.
Okay.
You know,
yeah.
That first time of that surrender, you know, and I finally got insurance. It's funny because I got insurance like a couple days after that. I got insurance from the company for over a year.
Right.
And then I called,
you were just about to qualify.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Because the job I was working at, it was like, you come in when you want to come in. I had the key to the shop. They were super laid back and I was good at my job.
So I was going to say, I can't believe you were able to keep a job, but that's why. Okay.
Because I was able to like
come and go,
finesse money to where I was like, I was able to go and I was able to leave and go. They were super laid back.
Okay.
So it was like, they didn't really care too much, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So I was able to keep my job, and I was actually working a lot because I didn't want to go home and sit in my bed and do dope. So I would just do dope in the bathroom and then just drive around in the golf cart and act like I'm working. Basically, I remember calling my family and I was like, you know what, this is what's going on. I'm sorry, I messed up again. And it was just, we're here for you. It was very supportive and booked a flight and went out there the next day. And
went back to SCRC.
Yeah, went back to SCRC through the Carlsbad program. The first time was Encinitas. They don't have the Encinitas anymore, but went through the Carlsbad.
And Rachel was one of your counselors, right?
Rachel's
my sponsor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Rachel's my sponsor. I know, I do too.
So great.
She's been my sponsor for 12 years or something, longer than I've even been sober, actually, because I relapsed a couple of times. Yeah.
She's great. I love Rachel.
And then what was different this time? What do you think made it work?
I was done. Yeah. And the thing wasn't that it was, you know, they always say you have to hit your rock bottom, you know, and I always say my rock bottom wasn't in Portland. You know, my rock bottom was being by myself and being fully disgusted and just pitiful.
Yeah.
You know, no more veins to shoot up in, no more friends. No one wanted to be around me because at that time word of mouth came around. Okay. And I was just done. You know, it's hard. I mean, you know, but it's like really hard to explain that. Just like I was done.
You're just exhausted.
I was just tired.
Yeah.
I was just pitiful. And I came out here and went into phase 1 and I had a really good group of guys in there. Right. And I remember people telling me, they're like, people you're in sober living with, that's your family, whatever. But just remember, most of them are not going to make it.
Right.
And I remember looking back to last time I came out here, none of those people, half of them are dead, or the other half of them no one's heard about.
Totally.
And I had to keep telling myself, like, as much as I can be friendly and hang out with them, but this isn't what's going to work. Right. And I knew that I had to really give this AA stuff a try.
Okay. So you got a sponsor and started doing steps. What was your experience with all that, with sponsorship and steps? And did you get started like right away when you moved here? Do they make you? I'm sure they do.
They kind of do.
Okay.
They're way more laid back now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely recommended too. But okay. I knew, because I've done treatment centers, I've known counseling, I've done therapy. For me personally, didn't really work for me. I have nothing against therapy or counseling. I'm 100% for it. But it just, for me personally, didn't work for it because I feel like I'm good at finessing people.
Right.
So I just finessed me what they wanted to hear to let me go out.
Yeah. And you can convince yourself too.
Oh, yeah.
I was really good at convincing myself. I believed everything I said. Oh, usually.
Yeah. It's the sick part about it.
Yeah. I believed everything I said. Like the whole, well, I'm not from some traumatic background, so I'm not an addict like these people. If you had hooked me up to a lie detector test, I would have passed when I was saying that. I fully believed that was true.
Yeah.
I truly believed that I was different because I was only smoking heroin. I really believed that was different.
Yeah.
And I used to say, well, I've never been arrested the first time I got to rehab, which actually wasn't even true. I had a DUI, but I didn't count that.
Yeah.
And so I would tell everybody I'd never been arrested.
Yeah.
And then the next time I went back to that same rehab, I'd been arrested 4 more times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for like printing checks, fucking strong arm robbery. But I went in that first time believing everything I said.
Yeah.
You know? So
that's awesome.
So you get the sponsor and you start doing steps?
Yeah. I remember I was like sponsor shopping kind of thing. I remember someone told me when I was out here the first time, it was like one of the old timers that kind of come up to you and talk to you. And I remember he was just like, I was like, oh, I need to find me a cool sponsor that's going to do this. And he was just like, that's not what a sponsor is. You need to find someone that's going to keep you, accountable.
Yeah.
Tell you when you're bullshitting. And that whole, like, find a sponsor that you can relate to and do all that, like, to an extent, yes. But at the same time, the whole point of a sponsor is to help you take you through the 12 steps of recovery.
Right. Totally.
You know?
I actually don't like the advice of find someone that has something you want.
Yeah.
If I would say anything, find someone who has the attitude and energy that you want. Because like Rachel didn't have anything I wanted at that time. I guess that's not true. She had a car. She only had like 9 months. And she did have a car, but she was also in sober living. But like she had this amazing like Zen attitude that I definitely don't have.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I didn't even realize that. It was kind of an accident. I think your best bet is to ask for spiritual guidance, is to ask God, because like God put Rachel in my life.
Yeah.
I wasn't smart enough to ask her.
Yeah.
No, that definitely like wasn't my call.
Yeah.
And so I think that guy's right. You just got to do it.
And I agree 100% because same thing you got to think is when you're so new, your thinking's not right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Think you want is not probably, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're new.
I mean, if you would have told me what I wanted as a sponsor when I was 2 weeks sober from not detoxing more, has been a guy that drove a Cadillac Escalade with 30-inch rims and told me it was okay to sell weed or, you know what I mean? Something like that. So that would have been my thinking. But no, I got a sponsor that was by the book, had commitments at meetings, share about spirituality and stuff like that. Stuff that I did not relate to or know. I remember I heard him share. He shared about poking himself trying to find a vein. And I'm like, dude, that was me. I used to cry because I couldn't find a vein, or I would miss and then I would just do a muscle shot or something like that. So it was like, I related to that, but I also didn't relate to the stuff where you talked about like spiritual stuff and the word God and stuff. So it'd throw me off a little bit, but I remember I would see him cleaning up and doing commitments and showing up early and stuff like that. And I knew that I had to find a sponsor like that, even though I really didn't want it. Because the last thing I wanted to do is read a big book.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? I asked him and he basically, like, I'm expecting to ask someone and they're like, oh, Dad, definitely, I'll help you. Come on. Yeah, I'll come pick you up tomorrow. Right. It was just like, hey, can you be my sponsor? Are you really about it? Or you want to go to any links? Yeah, I think so. I don't know what that means, but sure. Right. All right, call me tomorrow. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I remember I called him. I'm like, yeah, man, this just sitting here at Sober Living. He's just like, yeah, that's good. Yeah, call me tomorrow. I'm like, fuck.
That's how I sponsor, kind of.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's how you do now.
Because the way I see it, the easiest thing I'm going to tell you to do is call me for 7 days.
Right.
And I remember someone said a good point to me. They said, if you are really willing to go to any links and you really, really want the sobriety, if someone were to offer you $1 million, but you had to call them every day for 7 days, I guarantee you everyone would call them.
Totally.
So you have to think of it just like that.
That's true.
That's how bad you have to want this.
Yeah, totally.
And I called him every day, and then, he started picking me up.
Okay. Is he still your sponsor to this day? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of my best friends too.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So y'all start working steps together?
Yeah. We worked out directly out of the big book.
How did you get past any God hesitations?
So for me, I always believed in something bigger.
Okay.
We grew up in the Bible Belt, so you kind of get how it is. It's like, everyone goes to church. My family wasn't really big on church and stuff like that. I kind of had a resentment towards the word God.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because I thought he wanted nothing to do with me. Okay. You know what I mean? And my sponsor says the same thing. That's the other reason why I relate to him so much, because of how he felt about the whole, God aspect. Mm-hmm. It was good because I remember after we started working a little bit, before we even really dived in the book, he said, I want you to start praying. And then I was just like, bro, I don't really believe anything. He said, that's fine. Just start thanking God. Okay. You don't have to even use the word God. Just, just get on your knees and just say
prayer words.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's still how I pray today. I don't ask my higher power for anything.
Right. Okay.
I just simply say thank you.
Okay.
And then, working through the steps and, being able to, I remember he told me, he's like, I want you to write everything you would want a God to be and everything you would not want a God to be. And I remember sharing him the list with it. And he's just like, so all this stuff you don't want your God to be is how you're acting right now. And I remember I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. And then so I was able to kind of justify and see what I would want my higher power, which is just like the spirituality. There's something else bigger out there kind of thing.
Yeah. What's your favorite step, if you have one? Or the most impactful when you look back on all of it?
To me, they're all outlined perfectly. So I don't really have an exact perfect step. I think the one that helped me out throughout the most in sober living and then outside of sober living in a work environment is step 3. Okay. Is seeing is exactly how things should be at this point in time.
God, I really struggle with that, though.
Oh,
the idea that something is exactly the way that it's supposed to be.
I can sound good and talk about how I do it all the time, but I'm horrible at it.
How do you do it? Well, and let me actually let you finish for anybody that doesn't know automatically what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're good. The way I see it is when something's not going my way, it's okay for me to just sit back and just see how it's going to work out. Instead of me trying to control it, because my self-will gets me to shooting dope. You know what I mean? So my thinking's not that correct. My ego gets into play. So step 3 really helped me ease up. Because again, like I said, I'm normally an uptight person when I'm like not in the program or using. I'm very uptight. So it was able for me to like calm down and kind of just see how things are. Because again, I'm a car salesman. So I still finesse people to this day. You know what I mean?
You're really good at it, right? Haven't you? Yeah. I mean, you've become really good at your job.
Funny, the company I work at, the 2 people that work there,
you and CJ. Yeah. And he's really good too,
Yeah,
right?
sometimes I get in my head and I don't do that good. But typically me and him are
like the best.
Guys.
Yeah. How do you know the difference though between like I should take action or I do not need to take action here?
So I mean it's always harder. It's always easier said than done too. Like I said, it's not I say step 3 is one of my, I mean I like all the steps, but step 3 has done a lot for me, but it's probably one of the hardest ones. Right. Because I like to take control. Yeah. Even though I mess up everything. But for me, so far is it's more so establishing what's God's will, or my higher power's will versus my will. Because, it's not like you just sit there and just say, okay, let's see how it works out. Stuff to take into action and stuff like that. So the best way from me that has been told to me and that how I can understand it is the action that I have to do to say, get something I want or something at work or something is if I can do something that's not going to hurt someone else or hurt myself, and I don't have to lie, cheat, or steal to get my way, it's okay to do. Okay. You know what I mean? Hard work or whatever it is, or you know what I mean? But it's any times that I have to bend the rules. Right. If I have to finesse something, I have to lie. You know, I have to cheat something on my taxes or whatever it is. Yeah. That's when it comes down to where it's just like, now I'm taking too much of control. Okay. And it always comes down to fear. So for me, step 3 is anytime I get involved is because deep down I'm scared. Being in recovery, I've learned, because I always thought I just had a problem with, drugs and alcohol, but I didn't realize that all these things come into place, you know, that I'm actually a very fearful person.
Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of fear. You know, I always said, I remember I would always be like, oh, I struggle with depression. I get depressed, and then that's why I used. And I remember my sponsor said, are you depressed? Or are you stuck in self-pity? And I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
Because every time I think about it, it's, oh, poor me.
Yeah.
I don't have the car I want. I don't have the house I want. I don't have the job I want. You know, I. And that's what puts me in that depressive self-pity state. And then that's kind of how I realized it. But yeah, for me, step 3, like I said, it's as long as the actions I take to get what I want or what I'm trying to achieve is done in a decent way.
Okay.
You know?
How do you get out of the self-pity fear stuff when you notice it's happening?
I tell someone.
Okay.
And that's probably my hardest thing. Even when I talk to my sponsor, I'll be like, what's going on? You know, nowadays it's, you know, I don't have to use him like that much, but you know, he'll have to kind of grind it on me. Sometimes I can just call him and tell him straight up.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he'll be like, come on, man. He does the same thing with me. That's why I like our relationship is, you know, sometimes I feel like I'm sponsoring him. Sometimes he's sponsoring me. You know what I mean? We're very close in that nature to where like, you know, I'll call him out on his bullshit and he'll call me out on mine.
Right.
But yeah, I'd say probably that.
What does your program look like today in terms of like meetings, step work, whatever? What do you continue to do? Yeah,
I'll be honest. It's not, when I first came in the rooms, my first year was meetings, sponsoring, step work, you know, commitments. Nowadays, I don't go to as many meetings, not nearly as many as I did. I still, you know, go to probably, I'd say 1 or 2 weeks. Sometimes I'll miss a week or 2.
Yeah.
But I'm still involved with you know, I still reach out to people, you know, I'll go Saturday night and then I try to go to my men's meeting on Wednesdays sometimes. But with like my work schedule and stuff like that, I figured out it's like a good balance for me because I'm still involved, you know, I'm still, you know, able to talk to people and, you know, so I mean, it's not nearly as what it was, you know. Yeah. But I'm very content. You know, it's the first time I was actually talking to my buddy about it. He was asking me a question and he was just like, what's your biggest thing that you feel that's different? And I was just like, dude, I'm actually like content. Yeah. You know, like I don't like wake up and, you know, sometimes I wake up and I'm stewing in my head. Yeah. You know what I mean? Oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. Like I need this. I need that. But, you know, normally I'm very content with what I have now. How old were you when you got sober? I was 28. I think 27, 28, okay. Yeah. And then you started, because now, like professionally, you did end up doing well, but I'm sure you didn't think that when you first got sober, right? Like, weren't you afraid, like, what am I ever going to do with my life? Yeah. You know, how did you end up getting involved in car sales? Like, that's something that anybody could do when they get to, I mean, it's hard to be good at it, but like, that's another example of, I feel like one of the biggest barriers to entry for people is, why would I even try? Like, you didn't have a record, I didn't have a record, but some people do, or even if you don't have a record, you feel like you've wasted all this time. Yeah. How did you get into this industry? So with me, my buddy worked there. I was stuck in fear. So I was working at a golf course in Carlsbad, basically getting minimum wage, and I was good at it. And I felt stuck because I was afraid to hear no. Okay. And I was afraid of, you know, a lot of little stuff. And then finally my buddy that worked there and he was doing really well, he called me. He was like, look, you could make this amount of money, which was like 10 times the amount. Yeah. Is this CJ? Yeah. Okay. CJ. Yeah. So yeah, he put me on. He kind of gave me a rundown, and I'm very, very grateful for him because when I got there, he was already killing it. You know, he was doing really good, so he was able to train me really quickly and then throw me out there. So yeah, it's been great. And like I said, it's so weird now from like where I came when I was first here to where I am now. Like my problems that I had, you know, when I was in sober living was my house manager's being an asshole. He's watching me pee in a cup. Right. You know, my counselor's telling me to do this. Right. So now it's like I wake up, I check my credit score. You know what I mean? I check my credit score all the time too. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, because I finally got it okay this year. It took me a long time. Yeah. And so I check it a lot too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like instead of like going to Instagram and it's like first things like. That's awesome that you do that though. That's great. So it's just completely weird. Now it's like I have to get a CPA because, you know, I'm grateful to make a certain amount of money to where it's like I have to look for write-offs and, you know, me and my girl are planning on buying a house here soon. That's probably awesome. Carolina. That's awesome. So you might move back? Yeah, eventually. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we don't have any kids yet. I mean, I've been with her for almost 4 years. And so I mean, we're eventually gonna, you know, have kids and stuff like that. Yeah. So and I think I want to do it back where I'm from just because my parents, you know, my mom and dad are in their 70s. They're pretty old. And my sisters all have kids, you know. I have like 8 nephews and nieces. So it's like, But I don't know. I really love California.
No, we do too.
Yeah.
We think about moving to Georgia because it's so much more affordable.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
But obviously we love living here,
Yeah.
you know?
You can't go wrong with the weather.
Last question. What's your relationship like with your family now? They must be so happy.
Yeah, it's great. The biggest thing I've noticed is when I call, even when I was like in active addiction, I remember calling like my mom or my dad, and it would be like, "Hey son, how are you doing?"
Right.
Like
they sound
like
weird.
Their tone goes like, "How are you doing?"
Yeah.
Now it's, "Oh, hey son, how's it going? How's work going?"
Yeah.
How are you and your girl? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like I can hear it in their voice, and it took a while. Like my first year or two was still like, "Oh, how's it going out there?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I mean, I've been back a lot. I go back to visit once or twice a year and stuff like that. So they can see the difference, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's great. Like I said, I'm definitely probably the coolest thing I've gotten is just that they're not worried, which is probably the coolest thing I would say.
Yeah.
Then be able to have a relationship with my nephews and nieces, wasn't really around.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still not around because I'm in California, but, I'm able to like, talk to them and stuff. I flew my mom and my oldest niece out here like a month ago and took them out to like Big Sur in California and stuff. So it was,
that's awesome.
it was cool to be able to like, pay for everything, put them in a nice hotel, take them on a nice road trip, pay for their flight tickets, what an old, son should do. So
yeah,
it was really cool to do that,
that's awesome.
So yeah, it was very grateful for what this program has done for me too. Like I said.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing the interview. How do you feel?
I feel good.
It was easy, right?
Yeah.
Well, you did great, man. I appreciate it so much.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.